Joining us now is Malcolm Kenyatta. He is a state representative in the Pennsylvania state legislature representing City of Philadelphia. Representative Kenyatta, thank you so much for being here. I've been looking forward to talking to you all night. Thank you.
Always a pleasure, Rachel.
So we have been talking about in recent weeks, including you and me talking on the air about attempts in Pennsylvania to basically monkey wrench the ballot counting process, to stall it as long as possible, to try to allow for false claims of voter fraud or things going wrong in the voting process to be used as a way to shut down the vote. It does seem like what we thought was going to happen in Pennsylvania is happening in terms of what the Trump campaign is trying to do. How do you feel things stand in your state overall right now?
So first of all, let me say this, Rachel. We cannot, in this moment, allow Donald Trump to have our joy. You know, he can't take our joy, can't steal it. We can only give it away. He's going to go down in history as one of a very small handful of incumbent presidents to lose re-election. And I think joy hit the nail on the head. And it is going to be in large part because of the conscience of America, and that is black voters. And here in Pennsylvania, what we're seeing with the delay is exactly what the Republicans, this is their fault that we're having a delay. The president is crying about a delay. He should have really just called into the Republican House caucus and told them to pass the pre-canvassing bill that we wanted to pass, which would have allowed counties to begin counting ballots earlier, and we would have had a result, if not last night, we would have had a result early this morning. And when we get that result is going to be a repudiation of Donald Trump, everything he stood for, and his failure of the last 4 years.
Representative Kenyatta, hey, it's great to talk with you. I have to say that Ms. Rachel Maddow did the bomb interview with you the day after I had you on. I was so envious. I was just hanging my head in shame that her interview was so bomb that it was amazing.
Sure.
You guys were so great together. But so I'm glad to have the two of you back together again. But the other thing that you talked about with Rachel was just the legislature itself, which was the subject of a lot of fear, I think, from a lot of people who are watching Pennsylvania, that they might go to the extreme to try to place the electors for Donald Trump, to make those the electors really kind of almost no matter what. I mean, there's been a lot of talk about what they might do and what, in a partisan sense, they might do. What do you think the boundaries are now of their ability to interfere going forward, regardless of what happens with these cases?
Well, they wanted to do it. And it really was, the coverage here and other national outlets who talked about this that stopped them from doing it. They basically said as much. They were willing to move forward with throwing a monkey wrench, Joy, to use your words, into this election. And just imagine where we would be today if they were able to subpoena ballots as they wanted to, if they were able to subpoena whole polling, machines as they intended to do with this election integrity committee. I think at this point, all they can do is what they're doing. I think it was Eric Trump came to Philadelphia with baseless attacks, with another maskless event, whining about the loss that his father is about to receive. And I think instead of crying and whining and complaining today, Donald Trump should have tried being a better president, but he was not. He failed at this like he's failed at everything else he's ever tried his hand at. And it's why Joe Biden has received more votes than any person to ever run for president. It's why he's going to win Pennsylvania. It's why, he's going to win states like Arizona, because I've been seeing so much on Twitter of people depressed. Don't be depressed. No one election is going to solve all of the problems that we face. This election was about first securing our democracy, and we've done that. The second thing this election was about is opening the door to the next chapter. And then we're going to have to write that chapter together. And so what I hope folks take away from this is that they're going to have to stay engaged. The engagement that drove them to stop that election integrity committee is the same type of engagement that we're going to need to continue to have on issues from climate to gun safety to healthcare. Stay engaged, stay involved, but celebrate this moment, because Joe Biden is going to be the next president. Kamala Harris is going to be the next vice president because of the engagement that we've seen all across the country.
Wow. I think you just preached a word.
I'm telling you.
That was a word.
Don't listen. I'm telling you, every time we put him on TV, people call and are like, who is he? I know. Don't tell him. Okay. Representative Malcolm Kenyatta from the great state of Pennsylvania. We will continue to talk about you behind your back after we go to this commercial break. But know that we are so happy to have you here and to hear from you tonight. And good luck to you and your state over these next few hours as we wait to find out what happened there, sir. Thank you.
Well, I can't wait, Rachel, for you to call Pennsylvania because it's going blue.
I hear you. It won't be my call when that happens. Trust me. Yeah, so we've got this situation now where we've got multiple outstanding states, right? We're looking at Pennsylvania, we're looking at Georgia, we're looking at Nevada, we're looking at Arizona. And not only are we thinking about, well, who's likely to win, it's the timeline expectation in terms of when we are going to find out, what kind of data we're going to find out, and whether legal interventions are going to change any of that process. I'm glad we're not still thinking about this in terms of like 30 states and it's down to a half dozen, Joy, but still it's it's a little bit of calculus in terms of thinking and trying to set reasonable and realistic expectations as to when we will know who the next president will be.
Yeah, and I think, kudos, to pat the media a little bit on the back. I think that we did prepare ourselves in advance that this was not going to be a, night of the big election night. Here is voila, here's the president.
I think said that, though, but I said it, but I didn't know until I tried to live it that I didn't mean it. I intellectually figured that out and talked about it on the show and talked about it with multiple guests and knew it intellectually. But going through it last night, living through that experience, this is not going to be last night. I realized my heart must not have been in it because last night did just feel fraught.
It did feel fraught. And I think partly because even though we knew the red wave was a thing, and then the red mirage, I should say, the red mirage, we all knew it was coming. But when you're right, in the moment, it's enervating. It's aggravating. And I think partly, and I said this last night, I do think it's because we've been reporting for 5 years, Rachel, about Russia, about national security, just undermining our national security, the impeachment, the racism, the Nazis, all of it. And then COVID laying on top of it felt like a repudiation was coming. And I think even though we intellectually understand what America is at its base, right, that there is a great amount of racism, anti-blackness, anti-wokeness, this idea that political correctness is some sort of scheme to destroy white America, right? Like, we know what this country is, but you still, part of you, I think part of your heart says, you know what, maybe the country is going to pay off all of this pain, the children who were stolen, with a repudiation. And as the night wore on, and I realized, and it sunk in, okay, that's not happening. We are still who we thought.
Almost
unfortunately,
every incumbent in the country is going back to their office.
Go right back in. It's disappointing, and I emerged from this disappointed. But I gotta say, I'm gonna give a heads up, and I'm gonna sound like Nicole a little bit here, but kudos to the Biden campaign steadiness. Because no matter how many times I texted somebody in the campaign, they kept saying the same things, the same things that Nicole was saying. We're focused. We feel good about Wisconsin. We feel good about Michigan. We feel pretty good about Pennsylvania, but we feel good about Arizona. They know what states they cared about, and they stayed focused on it, and they didn't get rattled. And back to basics. This is an election about getting 4 in 10 white voters. It's the best you can do as a Democrat. According to exit polls, 42% for Biden, and about getting 3/4 of non-white voters. That's the game.
And getting 270 electoral votes.
And that's it.
Nicole Wallace, your name was invoked. Nicole, we wish you were here, but we're happy to see you.
Aww. I know I have to get home to my remote student here in Connecticut. Listen, I've never been accused of being, the rainbow and unicorn and sunshine member of our trio here, plus Brian. But let me just say, Joe Biden and Donald Trump both, I think, at the end of the day, understand that Joe Biden is the next president. And it's fascinating to me, and this is sort of the DNA of Republican campaigns. A win's a win's a win. So Joe Biden said today in his speech, and it happened during my hour, so I wrote it down. He said, quote, "It's clear we're winning enough states to reach 270. We believe we will be the winners." And then he went through and recited how his current margins in Michigan and Wisconsin exceed the margins by which Donald Trump won those states. I think that some of the sort of angst and disappointment that a lot of my Democratic friends and colleagues felt was in this landslide fantasy. But that just isn't the reality of presidential politics in this country. The whole ballgame is 270. The Biden campaign